Hello and welcome to episode 0 of the PSBlue Podcast, available on most every podcasting platform. I'm Anthony and I'm joined by my co-host and cousin, Vinny. How we doing today, Vinny?
Doing pretty good, Anthony. How about yourself? I'm pretty pumped up to get this ball rolling. This is a long time coming. How you doing?
Yeah, I know. We've been talking about this for a while. It's just, we're working the kinks out and we're trying to figure out exactly if we even have anything here. I think we do. I really think we do.
Oh,
I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
But
There'll be a few kinks.
we just got to hop right into it. So first and foremost, I just wanted to let you all know that this episode is going to be a bit untraditional, hence the episode 0. Typically, we'll have like a bunch of segments, news pieces, op-eds, some recurring parts that I'll let you guys imagine. But everything's pretty fluid for now as we figure out sort of a consistent routine with the show. But I'm really excited to start it up. So for this episode, we're going to introduce the two of us to everyone, get to know the host, kind of a deal, what kind of games we're into. I know I've been talking a lot, but I'm going to pass it over to Vinny in a second. I just wanted to quickly say that I have a top 10 PlayStation games of all time video on our YouTube channel, PSBlue, one word, just to plug that really quickly. So I have a more elaborate breakdown of what I like as far as my top 10 games, and I tried to not do repeats or anything like that. Vinny was pretty good about it too. And that's about it. So my top 10, we're just going to run through it just to catch you guys up.
Yes.
Top 10 PlayStation games of all time. I have some honorable mentions that didn't make the cut because they were games that were, they were on Sony platforms, but I played them on a different console, so I didn't include them. These were Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for the N64. It was also on PS1. Bioshock was on PS3, but I played it on the Xbox back when we were Microsoft kids. And then Resident Evil 4. The best version of that game was supposedly the GameCube, and I had every console growing up, so I played that on the GameCube, but that was one of my favorite games. Do you have any comments so far, Vinny?
Well,
I feel like I've been talking this whole time.
My first comment is, you said the GameCube version of that game is known to be the best, but it's not. That would be the Wii version.
That is
the
so
Wii
weird
version.
to me.
The Wii version of Resident Evil 4 might be one of the best games of all time. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, all right. Not to get too off track, but why? The motion controls.
The motion, and I'm not a huge Wii guy, and already we're PlayStation podcast talking about the Wii, but I will say, anybody that's played that game, I think, will say that is the best version of that game. The motion controls are amazing in that game, and I hate motion controls. I am not a huge advocate for motion controls.
God, you're dead wrong.
I'm happy that concept has kind of
I'd
phased its way out, but I'm telling you, the Wii version of that game is the best version. But
okay, I'm going to respectfully disagree.
You're going to disagree? Well, maybe I'll make you play it at some point.
Well, that'll be funny. Anyway, so moving on.
With these other games, I'm in complete agreement here. I think that if we played Resident Evil 4 on PlayStation, it would probably be on my list. I think it would.
Okay.
Based on my
Okay. I love that game. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. That game's fantastic.
So my number 10 PlayStation game of all time is, and I really didn't want to put it on the list, but I played it so much I just had to put it on there. Guitar Hero 2. So we're just going to, like I said, go super fast through these. Do you have any comments on Guitar Hero 2?
This is a great pick. I think this is a fantastic pick. This would certainly be in my honorable mentions. I was happy to see it on your list, though, because it's sad that these games are phased out completely. It really is sad. When I was watching your video, I was like, holy shit.
I know.
I did play a lot of Guitar Hero 2, and you don't realize how big that phenomenon was of the peripherals, the rock bands bringing, the plastic guitars, the plastic drum kit. I think Guitar Hero actually did a drum kit version, didn't they? In like Guitar Hero 4 or something like that. They had their drum kit. I think
they tried to compete with Rock Band at some point.
Yeah, and I don't think it worked out for either of them long term, but
Okay,
That's a
cool. So you
fantastic
agree with the
game.
pick?
That I'm in agreement with this one. You're gonna get no quarrels from me on that one.
Okay.
I really liked Guitar Hero 2.
Did you ever play Spyro the Dragon? Because that's my number 9 pick.
No, I've never played Spyro the
No.
Dragon. I can't say that I don't know if I'm too thrilled about this, but I can't really speak on it because I haven't played these
Okay.
games.
Well, not
So
too
tell
much. Yeah, it's
briefly
not. There's
why
not too
it's
much to say about it.
if you don't yeah. Go
I was just
ahead.
gonna say
Yeah, tell me why this is on your list.
it's a
Very briefly.
classic. It's just a classic. It's a lot on a lot of people's lists, I think, because it is just one of those first games. It was the first game that made me switch over to PlayStation, so that's why it's on my list.
Okay.
It was on the
That makes sense.
PS1. I really liked it. Um, let's try to go through these a little faster so we can get to your list because that's really what this
Sure.
episode's about.
Sure.
It Takes Two, great game. One of my favorite co-op games of all time. Played it on the PS5. Highly recommend it. That's my number 8 pick. My number 7 is Little Big Planet. We'll talk about that one later. Spoiler. Number 6 is Crash 4. You have anything to say about Crash 4?
No, I want to play it though.
It's
I
really
haven't
good.
played really any of the Crash games. but
You'd really
I
like
need
it.
to play this one.
I know what type of games you like. You'd really like it. Number 5 is Uncharted 2. I think there's a couple Naughty Dog games on your list, so we can circle back to that. And I'll chime in on Uncharted 2 when we get to your list. 4 is another Naughty Dog game, Jack 2, the sequel to Jack and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. Did you play that?
I did. It was so long ago to the point where I don't really remember. I remember bits and pieces of that game. I do remember it being fantastic, though.
Oh, it's so good.
But I
It
don't
just-
know.
I just have a
ahead.
vivid memory of playing that as like I don't even know, 13-year-old probably. Number 3 is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Number 2, Kingdom Hearts. And number 1, God of War, the new one. I'm going to not say anything about all those games because I think we're going to get into some discussion about those later, possibly. Unless, is there anything you want to say?
No, I think we're going to get to those games, I think, when we're talking about my top 10. I think we're
Okay,
going to be
great.
discussing a lot of those games for sure.
Okay, so that's a quick breakdown of my top 10. Go to PSBlue, all one word, on YouTube to check it out. The more detailed version of why those games are in my top 10. So Vinny, I'm gonna give you the floor, and you can
Okay.
say whatever you got to say.
Well, I think I am. And I've been looking forward to this one because this was a lot of fun to come up with. This really was. And it's really hard. I thought it was going to be easy until you start looking at the games that you played. And one of the things that I did was I looked at the trophies. I think I told you this, but when you look at your trophies and you see, holy shit, I put 100 hours into, well, I'm not going to say the game's name because it's on my list, but you start to realize, oh my God, that game was amazing. And then you kind of, you reminisce and you think about how special these games are. And I had 20 that I was really kind of going through and sorting through. So there's quite a few on my honorable mentions, but
Let's start with those. What are your
Okay.
honorable mentions?
Yeah, let's go ahead and we could start right there. My first honorable mention. This game, it honestly breaks my heart, some of these games, because how it's not in my top 10, but this game is so good. Portal 2, honorable mention. Portal 2 is a fantastic, a fantastic game. Builds on everything that was right with the first one, but just the story in this game is so clever. It is such a funny game. The gameplay is sensational. This game is awesome. Have you played Portal 2?
Yeah, of course. I think
You have?
we
I was gonna say maybe we played co-op at some
we
point
did
when that game was
we
out.
I don't think we ever beat it, but we did play the co-op together. I do know that. A couple of I remember there was like the round guy and then like the tall guy, like Mario and Luigi sort of dynamic they
It's
had
like a
going
Mar-
on.
The co-op mode was okay, from what I remember. I'm not even
It was
speaking
good.
about the co-op.
It's-
It was
The thing is there's so much, and after playing the first Portal, I didn't expect to say this, but there's so much story build up
So
and
good.
so many story elements in Portal 2 that's kind of, they try and do it in the co-op mode, but it's kind of taken out of it. and I think that's why it doesn't shine as well. I agree with you
Yep.
100%. The story is really good. It's
Yes.
really
And
is.
the ending to the game is
Oh, I love that
amazing.
ending.
And to have, and boy, I can't remember what's the character's name. The ball. He's a very famous actor, but
Oh,
he
I'm not
turns
sure.
on you and he ends up becoming the big villain at the end.
Spoiler alert.
And I mean, shit. This is
Yeah,
what
I know.
20-year-old game we're talking about here. So, spoiler cast, I guess, for Portal 2. But can I spoil the game? Is that okay?
I
I'm
mean,
gonna go
yeah,
ahead
we
and
said
spoil it
spoiler alert
because
50
I have
times
to.
now.
Okay. Well, one last time. Spoiler alert. You shoot the fucking moon and you
Yeah.
shoot a portal to it. And it is just the most insane set of sequences the last 10 minutes of that game. It is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So, Portal 2, honorable mention number 1. I'll move on
Okay.
to honorable mention number 2 because this is on your honorable mentions as well. I have Bioshock on here.
All right.
So,
All right.
Bioshock, fantastic game. Everyone go play it if you haven't. I think there's a remaster out. So I played the remaster, and it's just as good as I remember that game being.
I recently tried to get another remaster, but something else caught my eye. But I just wanted to really quickly say Bioshock. I thought that was a good segue after Portal 2. I think it has my favorite story in a video game ever.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's that good. What else you got?
Definitely it is definitely up there. I don't criticize you for saying that because that story is sensational. It is, and it's a shame it's not on my list, but that game is so good.
Well, but
it really is that good.
You played that on Xbox too, though, right? I think that's when we were in the
Yes.
360.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, so
Yes.
that makes
I
sense
played
to
that
me.
game on Xbox. Yes.
It shouldn't be in
So
a
I don't really
PlayStation list.
associate that game with PlayStation. But man, oh man, what a fantastic game. My next game for honorable mentions, and we have 3 more of these. Call of Duty Black Ops, the first one.
Okay.
Now, we don't have any Call of Duties on our lists. I think that Call of Duty is really kind of soured over time. I play them every single year. I play the campaigns particularly.
Did you play Vanguard?
Because I enjoy them. It's kind of... What's that?
Did you play Vanguard?
That's the most recent one, right? That's the
Yeah.
World War II. Yeah, I did play Vanguard. I actually enjoyed it, actually. It was a pretty good campaign. But Call of Duty Black Ops 1 was... Talk about getting your money's worth. You got the campaign, which was amazing. The campaign in Call of Duty Black Ops 1, I think, is the best one of all of them.
Listening to the Rolling
And
Stones on the boat,
It
shooting
has such a good soundtrack. It is so
oh my
freaking
God.
cool. And it was at the early stages of Call of Duty where it wasn't 15 Call of Duties in, so you weren't really disgusted with seeing another Call of Duty like we are now, where it's every single year they're cranking these things out like nobody's business. But it was still fresh. The concept was still fresh. Treyarch just made, I think, World at War prior to that, where they introduced zombies and they perfected it in Call of Duty Black Ops 1, in my opinion. I can't imagine. How many hours of zombies do you think we played over time? Call of Duty Black Ops 1. Shit. Hundreds.
Yeah,
Hundreds.
it has to be in the hundreds.
Amazing.
Because
So
you think
got
one run can go anywhere from 15 minutes if we
Yes.
die
And
really
we used
fast.
to play till 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
we were
but
playing all night.
One
The
run can
zombies-
easily be 3-4
God, it's so
hours, and
good.
we went deep in zombie runs at least 50 times.
At least 50 times.
I think that's a
my
small
God.
number.
I
think
was going to
that's
say that's
yeah.
We definitely much more than that over time. I mean, we must have put hundreds of hours.
So let me ask you, why is
Yeah.
it not in your top 10?
I think it's just because the other games are just so fucking
Okay,
good.
fair.
Man.
That's fair.
It really is. It's not. It's just I feel like I shouldn't criticize this game. And
That's fair.
Black Ops, I wanted it to be on there, but the other games just I couldn't put it above anything. I really couldn't. I was genuinely thinking, what could I put this above? And I just couldn't do it. So, but anyways, talk about getting your money's worth. You got the campaign. That was the first time they were doing campaign, zombies, multiplayer, and then there was a Dead Ops mode that was actually pretty sweet in that game. So you
That
got
was
a
in the
lot
first
of
Black
content
Ops?
there.
The Dead Ops
That was in
mode?
the first Black Ops. You unlocked it. Yeah, you unlocked it after
Wow.
beating the campaign. And yeah,
Yeah,
man,
it's,
that was
it's
back
pretty
when.
standard
Yeah,
to do that now, but I think this was one of the first games that really bundled all those modes together, because it used to just be either like zombies or
yes.
this or that. Like I don't think they ever did zombies, multiplayer, campaign, and some RTS mode all together in
Yeah.
one. I think that was the first time they did that. I think you're right.
Yeah, it was. I think it was, and it's the only time, in my opinion, that all of them were fucking awesome. They were all good, like great. Like the campaign was amazing, the zombies was amazing, the multiplayer was amazing. Next one, next honorable mention, Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I know you're disgusted that this is an honorable mention
I'm
on
so
my
disgusted.
list. It's not on my top 10 list. It's not.
I don't know if you
haven't
guys.
beaten this game.
I'm gonna cut you off really fast. I
Yeah.
don't know if you guys remember, but I said it's number 3 on my top 10 PlayStation games of all time, and it's just wrong. It's just wrong that game's not on there. So we gave up so much for this game. We gave up a good Kingdom Hearts 3 for this game.
Go on, go on.
That's
Keep
it.
going.
We'll save
going.
this for
We gave
another
up a
day.
good-
I could.
okay.
We don't have
Okay,
time.
Okay, fine. It's an honorable mention. It's a great game. I agree with you there.
What do
Last
you-
one.
Wait, hold on, really fast. I I know we're trying to get to your top 10.
Yeah, I know you can't get over the fact that I didn't put this in my top 10.
I really can't. But
Go ahead. What you
the
got?
combat, the combat system.
Yeah.
I
amazing.
dare you to pick any other game in your top 10 and tell me that the combat system is better than the combat in Resident Evil. I'm sorry, Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I don't think you're wrong in saying that. I don't think that means that Final Fantasy VII Remake is a better game than those. But, I mean, there's certainly some games here that you could definitely make that argument.
The
like
combat
I
in
said,
that
these
game's
are
so
honorable
good.
mentions.
All
These
right.
are honorable mentions.
Let's move on.
They could be in my top 10, but they're just not better games. Sorry. Next game.
Last one for the honorable
Resident
mentions. Go ahead.
Evil 2 Remake, an amazing game. Everyone go out and buy this game so that they can keep, well, I shouldn't say that, so that they can keep remaking these Resident Evils, because Resident Evil 3 Remake wasn't so good. But the second one, fantastic game. Job well done, Capcom. Keep cranking these things out. These Resident Evil games are getting really good. What are your thoughts on that game?
Basically all the stuff we said about Resident Evil 4 kind of I think can carry over to Resident Evil 2 Remake. The difference being is Resident Evil 2 Remake was a different era. The games were different, and it wasn't that, over-the-shoulder third-person shooter like it was in Resident Evil 4. So they took that same map, that same formula, and, for lack of a better word, remade it and changed it all up.
Yep.
So I never beat it, but I liked being Leon again from that perspective, because
It was nice. It
as
felt
we've
right.
said, yeah, we're both huge fans of Resident Evil 4, so
Yeah.
it was nice to be Leon again in that
And then you play
over-the-shoulder
as Claire.
perspective.
You replay the game as Claire, too, and it's sweet.
Do I have to go back and finish that game?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
cool.
If you have not beaten that game, go out and finish it. They're remaking Resident Evil 4, which that I'm sure we're going to talk about when it comes out. No doubt.
Yeah, I can't wait for
Okay.
that.
I
All
know.
right, so without
And it's
further
gonna-
ado,
hopefully they don't screw it up, because we'll talk about it if they mess it up.
right.
Okay.
Let's
Now we're
do
on
it.
into our big discussion.
This is it, drum roll,
We're into the top
and this
10.
is
And
Vinny's
man,
top 10.
I'm going to call some stir here already right off the bat. Number 10. Until Dawn is my number 10 on my top 10 PlayStation games. This game is a guilty pleasure of mine. I'll admit it. Not everyone's going to love this game. It's not for everyone. But if you are into horror, particularly 80s, 90s, early 2000s slasher horror, and I became a massive fan of those films in my early 20s when this game came out. This game is it is a love letter to people that love those kinds of films. It is a love letter. I had a smile on my face the entire time that I played this game. This game is so good. I honestly wanted to put it higher. I was very close to, but I was like, this is a guilty pleasure of mine. It is an amazing game. This game, it is I'm telling you, if you are a fan of horror, go play this game. This is the only horror game that is on my list, unfortunately, and I love horror. But this is the one that stood out the most. Go ahead, Anthony. I could already see you over there. What do you want to say?
I don't think that's true, first of all. I think there's a couple other games that you could say are horror on your list. I think you could say 4 or 5 are horror, actually. But that's a conversation for another day.
maybe.
I don't get it, man. I don't get this game. I see the appeal of it, I guess. I understand what
Yeah.
it's doing. I understand the concepts of it. but
How much of this
I don't
game have
know.
you
I
played?
just doesn't work for me. What is so good about it? I like horror too. I'm a fan of horror, slasher horror movies. What? Explain why it's so
So
good. I
for
don't get
me,
it.
I think it's because I became a diehard fan of slasher horror,
Okay.
particularly when this game was coming out. I think a lot of this has to do with timing with these games. I think did the game come out at the right time? You played it when you were in the mood for that game.
Okay.
Maybe it caught you off guard. A lot of these games caught us off guard where you really weren't getting that hype built up for them. This game came out, I didn't even know what it was.
Was
I
it
saw that it had great reviews and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna check this one out. I think maybe I'll like it. And man, I loved this game. And it was right. I'm telling you, Anthony, it was right when I was getting into these films. I think I watched the Halloween trilogy, the Halloween, all 10 of them. I've probably seen those movies like 15 times each since
Wow.
in my early 20s. It
Okay.
was really at the right time. And like I said, this is a guilty pleasure of mine. I know it's not going to be on everybody's list, probably not most people's list, but everybody needs to go play this game if you like horror, and it is a fantastic love letter to those fans. So I think it's all about timing with this one for me.
Let me ask you a question. Is the butterfly effect system that they had in that game, is that like...
It's amazing. I've played
Okay.
this game. I've played this game. I didn't play it last October, but prior to that, I think I've played through this game like 4 times. Oh, and then that's on a yearly basis every time during October. This is a game that ages really well too.
Really?
I think we're going to be able to play this game in 10 years and be like, this game is just as amazing as it was 15 years
Maybe
ago. It is
maybe
going
the
to age
first
like fine
couple
wine.
of hours is just boring or
It's
something.
build up, and it's perfect because you have the cliches in every horror film, and I loved it. You have the douchebag football guy that you want to kill, and that's
Right.
the best part is you get to just kill these guys. You get to make the stupid decisions for them. You get to choose who you like, who you want to
Interesting.
stay, who you want to kill off, and I'll tell you what, yeah, you kill off a douchebag. Some of the characters in this are just the writing is not poorly written, but it's poorly written on purpose. These are characters that are doing things that are dumb. They are dumb characters, and
It's
that's a part
it's
of its charm.
it's
I don't want to say it's poorly written, but they're making dumb
no,
decisions.
they are channeling that B movie energy, that slasher
Yes.
film energy, and they know what they're doing. Is that what you're trying to say? I think maybe
Yes.
that like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah. That's
they're
exactly what I'm
emulating
trying
it
to
on
say.
purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it has all the elements of those
God,
horror films. The
I really didn't
geek,
know
you
until we
have the
did
geek
this.
that knows all the information. He's the guy in the corner that likes the girl, the hot girl that doesn't like him but likes the jock. It's all
Yeah.
it's all of the stereotypes are here. It's wonderful. It is a fantastic game. So that's a guilty pleasure. I'll go ahead. If do you have any other comments on Until Dawn before I move on to my number 9 game?
My only other comment is I didn't know you were this passionate about Until Dawn until until
I know.
today.
I
And you
know.
liked it.
It is so good. I love.
I'm gonna have to give
this
it another
game.
shot
I haven't really
because
spoken to you a lot about it, but yes, this game is amazing.
if
You
I get
you really
through
need to play it.
if I get through the first, hour and a half, does it pick up? Does it start to get better? Because it was just so boring at first.
Certainly picks up. It
Okay.
definitely picks up as any horror would. It's stupid horror buildup is what it is.
Right.
Like any of those films are, like any of the Scream films are. Not even necessarily Scream, but Friday the 13th. Those films that are
Right.
just just a great game. It is a ton of fun. I cannot emphasize enough.
Have you
really
played any of their other games? I think they're
I
called
have
the Dark
yeah.
Picture. What are they called?
the Dark Picture anthology,
Okay.
and it's just not the same. The concepts aren't particularly good. I
Okay.
played the first 2 chapters. The first one, I believe, it was like a ghost ship sort of situation, but it really just didn't. I don't know exactly what it was, but I think it's universally known that those aren't really as good as Until Dawn was.
Are you excited for
Whether
the
it be the
Quarry?
writing, what's that?
Are you excited for the Quarry?
Oh, I can't wait for the Quarry. The Quarry is one of is. I don't want to say it's my most anticipated game, but it's certainly one of. And you know what? That game has co-op. We might need to go play. We might need to play through that
Okay.
game for the podcast because
I'll
that
do
would
it.
be a blast.
I'll do
That
it.
would be a
Just
ton of fun, and
just
then
so you
I could
can
get you into those
rub
games.
it into my face
Yeah.
and tell me how wrong I was about these games because I don't know. I just don't get it. I
We
thought Guardians
definitely
of the
need to play
Galaxy
that.
did a much better job of telling a story. You should play that game. That game's awesome. All right, number 9.
Okay. Number 9. Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight. You talk about when I think of what my favorite genre of game is, it is no doubt in my mind it's platformers. I love a good platformer. This game is so sensational. It has the good thing about the best part about this game is that the concept is so simple. There's not a lot of mechanics with this game. There really isn't. There's a little pogo stick jump that you do, and then you're jumping, and then you have your shovel attack move. There's like 3 moves in this game. But the level design in Shovel Knight is fantastic. It is so good. It might be the best level design I've ever seen in a platformer, if I'm being honest.
That is
like
a
sincerely,
bold
it is
statement.
that good. And you've played
I think
Shovel
Mega
Knight,
Man
right?
1 through 6 would beg to differ.
I think this game is a love letter to Mega Man fans, and I've never
is.
played Mega Man, so I have played them. I couldn't. They were just. It was just too much. I haven't had the opportunity to really dive into those games, but man, this game. What did you think of Shovel Knight?
I love Shovel Knight. I think it's a really good game. So Until Dawn, I get the PlayStation top 10 PlayStation. So even though I'm not a personal fan of Until Dawn, I understand what's PlayStation about that game. Tell me more about why Shovel Knight is a PlayStation game for you. Did you play it on Vita? Did you play it on
similar to Bioshock, where we didn't play that on PlayStation, so it's not a top 10 PlayStation game for us.
Okay.
I think it's very subjective here. It's based on. I played this game on PS3. I want to say it was PS3 or PS4. What console did this come out for? PS4? I want to say it's
both.
PS4. But I've probably played this game 10 times through on my PlayStation 4 in the last 10 years this game has been out. I play this game constantly. I think I have over 100 hours in Shovel Knight.
Oh my god.
As sad as that sounds. But
That's
this
not
game
sad. It's a great game.
I know, right?
It's
But in my mind, and from my viewpoint, like I said, very subjective, I played this game on PlayStation. This is one of my top 10 PlayStation games of all time. This is the best platformer this is the best platformer. Well, I shouldn't say that because there's another one on my list here. But it's the most, in terms of level design, it is the best platformer on PlayStation, in my opinion.
Wow. You know what?
And let me say this also. The music in this game. I think
great.
platformer, and I think you'll agree with me, the music is just as important as the level design. It is. The music in this game is so fucking good.
You know what's bothering me?
Go ahead.
Everything that you're saying is convincing me that you need to play Mega Man 2. Like, you need to play Mega Man.
I do. I'm telling you, I own that collection on PlayStation, but
I've
never
beaten
really dove
all.
into it.
I went through a phase where I needed to play a bunch of retro games. I don't know. I just one thing you'll find out about us eventually is that we are huge retro platforming fans. I don't want to speak for you, but I think that's a fair statement.
Yes, I'm in agreement there for sure.
Yeah, and that was a blind spot for me, the Mega Man games, and they live up to the hype. I'm just going to say that. The music is some of the best platforming video game music ever. When you get to Wily's Castle and almost all of them, they're all different too. It's just you just need to play Mega Man 2. I would the first one you can skip. I think you can skip the first one. The first one has some good songs, some good bosses, but it's very hard. It's very hard, and there's some different things that you have to do in that game that like that Thunder boss. I don't remember his name, but I had to do the pause hack because he's just too hard. And anybody that knows Mega Man knows what I'm talking about. I don't remember the guy's name. It was several years ago, but I would just pick up Mega Man 2 and just start playing it. There's nothing more I can say. And maybe because have you beaten any Mega Man games?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I would look at a guide, um, and I would follow the guide just for the first one, just for Mega Man 2, just so you know
Mm-hmm.
you have to do it in a certain order because certain bosses give you items and weapons that you can use as a weakness to another boss in the game.
Yeah.
And I didn't really abandon the guides for the first few games. Like I followed them pretty closely and it didn't really take away anything from the game to me.
Yeah.
So I would put that very high up on your list of games that you need to check out.
Sure. Yeah. I think what was a little off-putting for those games for me was that difficulty. I think I have to be in the mood for something like that. Shovel Knight's a little bit more of a gradual build up to that difficulty. I think Mega Man, it's like, boom, like you hop into that game, it's hard as hell. That
It was
game
just
is
a different
hard.
time, I think,
Yeah.
too. Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
all those games were hard.
Yeah. And
On the
Shovel Knight's
NES era.
insanely hard. Shovel
Yeah.
Knight gets insanely hard at the end.
Did you play the DLC for Shovel Knight?
I played 2 of them, and I
All the way
didn't
through?
like one, but I did like the other. There's one where you play as Spectre Knight, and I think it's called Spectre Knight of Hope, or it's something of that nature. But you play as Spectre Knight, and it's fantastic. It is fantastic.
He has a
DLC.
dash, right?
He has a dash move,
midair dash.
and
I
that's
remember
his
that.
mechanic is his dash, and he's super overpowered. He's crazy overpowered. And that is that's like a whole new another game. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
'cause they
another at
changed
least
the
like
levels
6
up,
hours.
right?
It's fantastic. It's a totally new level design. And the dash mechanic it takes a little getting used to, but it's really, oh man, it's so good. It's fantastic.
Just for clarification, it's the same levels, but they just changed the design of them,
yeah.
right? Is that correct?
It is from what I remember. I think you're referring to. There's one where it's the exact same levels. It's just you have a different character.
Okay.
I want to say I don't remember the exact night, but you just play as a different character that isn't Shovel Knight through the same kind
But
of.
there's
levels.
one that are all new levels?
There's one that these are all new levels.
Oh
in
my
Spectre
God.
Knight. From what I remember, there might be a few that overlap. That's a different level design, but from what I remember, it's entirely new levels.
I need to check that out then. I totally missed
It might
that.
be similar backgrounds, maybe, but I mean, he has a totally different mechanic that really changes the level design. It's a ton of fun for sure.
Do you like Metroidvanias? Is that like
Yeah, I do. I don't know if I would categorize Shovel Knight as a Metroidvania.
No,
I don't
it's not. I was just
necessarily think
curious
it is.
'cause
There are kind of Metroidvania elements. There's hidden paths in certain situations, but not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't think I would say that I'm a huge Metroidvania fan. I don't think I've really ever gotten into one that's like a hardcore Metroidvania game.
Yeah.
What about you?
I was gonna say I think Shovel Knight. I think you'd like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I played that through on my Vita, which is rest in peace Vita. But like when that thing was on Vita, it was just a PS1 game. It wasn't like a remake or anything, or it was just the PS1 emulator on Vita. But it was great. I loved it. I think you might like that. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's way different, but there's some elements that I think Shovel Knight probably borrows from that you might like.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is definitely a game that takes a lot from other games.
Okay,
It's
moving
just a
on.
nice blend.
Number 8.
Next game, number 8, Street Fighter 4, particularly Super Street Fighter 4, if we're being very specific. But it's the
Okay.
exact same game, right? But a little bit more of a roster. I think there's about 30 characters there. I think, for me, this is the best fighting game on PlayStation. And I really don't think it's particularly close. When we talk about... I think for a fighting game, gameplay is king. I think
Yeah.
this has the best gameplay of any fighting game that I've played on PlayStation. I think that it's simple, but there is an insane amount of depth to kind of that simplicity of the combos that you can do in this game. There's just so much to it. I remember, I think me and you played this game, right? How many hours do you think we put in this game? I mean, we probably put 100, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I would
right?
at least 100.
Somewhere 100, maybe 200, somewhere in that ballpark.
Here's the problem.
And it got... Go ahead. Yeah, but before you get there, I just want to say, this game got better and better the more hours that we put into it. A lot of times, you'll play games a lot, and it'll kind of phase out, like you'll get kind of bored. this game kind of gave us the more and more as we put time played in. Go ahead.
I think that's like a lot of fighting games. They have that,
Yeah.
hidden depth. But Street Fighter 2, I think it was like, see, I'm not a big fighting game guy, but Street Fighter 2 had like this really long life cycle where people played it like for
and you could see
25 plus years.
Yeah. Exactly. And another reason why this is on my list, as opposed to other fighting games, the art design. The art design of this game is freaking awesome.
The cell shading and all that stuff.
I think it is so cool. It is like fighting in a paint. It is like the characters are almost paintings, and the backgrounds are so good. This is such a fantastic fighting game.
Did you like Street Fighter 5? Did we play that?
No, we never did.
Okay.
I actually never played Street Fighter 5. They actually just announced Street Fighter 6. So we're definitely going to have to check out Street Fighter 6 when that comes out.
Yeah.
Because I think they just announced it about a few months back.
This is what I honestly, I'm not sure. Like I said, fighting games is kind of like a huge gray area for me. I just don't have the, desire to get really good at them like I did when we would play Street Fighter 4. That was the one exception, I think.
I was going to say, this was the one exception, and then we dabbled in we definitely played a fair amount of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 as well. Or Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Excuse me.
That game is awesome.
Another fantastic fighting game.
Yeah, that
game's
was
awesome as
that
well.
was a note that I had, is Marvel vs. Capcom 2 should have been on there instead of Street Fighter 4. But the more you talk about it, the more I think Street Fighter 4 like deserves it. It's a better game.
Yes.
Street Fighter 4 is
Street Fighter 4 is an
without
overall
question
better
better
game, in my opinion. It is.
We just like Marvel vs.
more and more.
Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom is a little bit of a. It just has those characters that I think we have that sort of attachment to as kids. So you're fighting with the Hulk. It's pretty freaking sweet. So
what I was gonna say before we move on is normally when you just play one of your buddies in a fighting game over and over and over and over again, you kind of just come down to their skill level and you don't really grow or get better. And I feel like that's very true of all the fighting games that we played except for Street Fighter 4. I think that was the one game where we wanted to beat the other person so bad that we just kept getting better and better. And I think we were actually we
were actually pretty good at that fucking game. We were pretty good.
We'll get our asses handed to us. We tried to play it against anyone. We would be absolutely murdered, but
we were pretty good, and we knew each other's moves.
Yeah.
But and that was the best part, was when we started to realize what the other player was going to do.
Right.
It made it way more fun because there's always a counter to everything.
Do you see what I'm saying, though? Like, so much fun. How in other fighting games, though, that like you're not going to get good if you play the same person over and over and over again, because you're just going to...
Exactly.
But for some reason, that game was not like that.
You actually learn.
Yeah.
And there's layers to it. And it takes a while to learn that game. It really does. But man, time well spent. That game was friggin' awesome.
What's your number 7 pick, Vinny? What's that one looking like?
Number 7, and this is, I think, where we're going to get into an argument because it involves something on your list. Number 7 is The Last of Us. So you didn't have The Last of Us, not even in your honorable mentions, which I couldn't believe. I mean, I could imagine you would put it in there, but you had Uncharted 2 on your top 10 list instead of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
The Last of Us is a far superior game, and I don't even think it's close. The Last of Us has a better story. Do you agree?
Yeah.
It has a much better story. I don't even think it's a much better written game.
I agree.
It is, in terms of gameplay, the exact same, if not better, because it's the same exact developer. I mean, it's essentially the same kind of concept. You're covering. There's also a crafting element there that's awesome in that game.
I don't think the gameplay is as similar as you think it is.
Really?
Yeah.
I think there is some overlapping there from the two games, generally speaking.
There's definitely overlapping because it's the same developer.
Yeah,
but
that's all I mean.
Yeah. I think Last of Us is more stealth based, and I think each shot matters more in that game. And I'm just like, really supporting your argument here.
I know. I was gonna say, man, you're making my argument for me. I appreciate it.
You can spray and pray. You can, what is it? spray and pray. Is that how you say it?
For
In
what? The Last of
Uncharted
Us?
2, for sure. You can't do that in The Last of Us. You'll have no
Yeah,
ammo.
and the story. It's I think for me, the story just takes risks, which is why this game is in my top 10. This takes risks that I don't think we saw Naughty Dog do prior to this. I think Uncharted 2 is fantastic, but it doesn't necessarily take those risks, right?
I agree.
This game is
I can agree with
really
that.
dark, and it is really heavy stuff in this game. It really is, and it is you don't know what's gonna happen, like genuinely, and you're fearful of what the hell is gonna come next the entire time. You're just engrossed in that world. It is really it is such a good story,
Let me
and
ask you
that's
a
why it's on this
question.
list. Sure.
Do you think that they need to remake it again?
God no, I'm tired of the remakes.
You know they're doing
Why
it,
would you
right?
want that? They remade it.
No.
What?
They they're
They're
releasing
not
it. You
remaking
didn't know this?
They already did the remake.
No, man. They're doing another full ground up remake. Not a remaster, a
Of
remake.
the original Last of Us?
Yep.
Get the fuck out. What the hell are they going to do to it? It's a perfect...
I know, it's like a waste.
There's no FPS boost. It runs at 60 FPS on the PS4.
And, I could
what
be
the hell are
wrong,
they-
but
why-
as I understand
Is it Naughty Dog or is it
Yes.
another studio?
As I understand it, I could be wrong, but
There's no way.
I'm pretty
There's
sure
no way.
it was a different studio working on it, and then Naughty Dog overtook it, if I'm not mistaken. And now Naughty Dog is using their talent to redo The Last of Us from the
A
ground
second
up.
time. Because what a great use of our resources to remake a game that we just remade. The Last of Us remake came out 5-6 years ago. I mean, it didn't come out that
Something
long.
like that, yeah.
Wow, that is mind-boggling to me. That has to just be rumors. There's no way that they would.
No,
do
I'm
that.
pretty
I would
sure
be
it's
shocked if we're
confirmed.
here talking about stories and they confirm. I don't think Naughty Dog has announced what they're officially working on yet, though, right?
Well, they do have
From
the,
what
they
I'm
have the
aware of.
multiplayer game. I think it's
They have
like
some multiplayer game, in
like the
back.
live
Yeah, they don't-
service
yeah.
one that was supposed to come out with The Last of Us 2. I think it's called like
Yeah.
I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But
We'll
no,
have to
I'm
see on
almost
that. We'll have
positive
to
it's
see.
confirmed.
I don't think this needs a remaster though. No, it's already been remastered. It's already perfect on the PS4.
Okay, just
Don't
curious.
waste your time remaking it.
I will say one final thought on that is that
Sure.
you're not the reason why Uncharted 2, just to defend myself a little. The reason why I put Uncharted 2 on there and not The Last of Us, I love The Last of Us. I literally beat it in like 3 days. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't put it down.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have The Last of Us without Uncharted 2.
I agree with you there. I wouldn't even make that argument. Obviously I can't make that argument, but I think it really was a difference maker. Uncharted 2 when it came out. I
Right.
think that The Last of Us is almost that formula, but perfected.
Yeah, I
excuse
agree
me.
with that. Now, I
I
don't
think
agree that
that's
the
why it's on my
gameplay
list.
is similar. Like I think I know the gist of what you're saying. I don't agree that the gameplay is similar, but I just think some of the the big set pieces, and not that The Last of Us had a bunch of big set pieces, but it just like the way they tell the story is very similar, in my opinion. Not pacing wise, but just storytelling wise, if that makes sense, to
Sure.
how Uncharted 2 sort of laid the
Sure.
foundation for that.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
was
And
a
The
really
Last
bad
of
run
Us-
on sentence,
yeah.
but we're still working the kinks out here.
The Last
think
of Us has a lot of good set pieces as well. It really does. I think when you replay that game, you realize it.
yeah, like
you
the
don't
the
realize
boat,
how many there are.
not the boat, but you go
They're
under the
amazing
water and
sequences.
yeah,
Yes.
you do the
Amazing,
thing where
amazing
you're hanging upside down and shooting. And
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
not a set piece, but that was just like a really clever.
It's really cool.
thing.
Some of the stuff they did.
That's the last thing I have to say about that. I'm ready to move on if you are.
Okay. Number 6. And I think we both agree with this. This will probably be a shorter conversation. Little Big Planet. And I mean, what can we say about this game than that you haven't already said in your video? This game is the reason why we bought a PlayStation.
Yes.
This game,
PS3.
it is so incredible what this is Media Molecule. What they were able to accomplish with this game. I think that as soon as the concept was released, it was an early demo of this game that we saw, and we had to have this game.
Yeah, we were obsessed.
It was like, oh my god, like we literally begged our parents to get us PlayStations just for this game.
How
And
old were we?
Oh man,
Like 14?
we had to have been 14 years old, and we were probably what 12 when we saw that demo, maybe
Something like
11.
that. Yeah.
And so because they showed that demo and the game didn't come out till like 3 years after that. This game is so man, it is so incredible. I'm so upset that I didn't get into Dreams. Because that's like Little Big Planet on steroids. But I think Little Big Planet was simple. The creative elements of it were simple to use. It was very easy to create levels in this game. It's a lot of fun. Really not much more I could add from your video. Really great game. Like, it is just a sensational game. When I think of PlayStation, this is, one of the first things that pops in my head for sure.
Yeah, me too.
They need to make Little Big Planet. Would you be excited if they announced Little Big Planet 4? Do you want that or no? Do you think that's where it scores?
Honestly, no. Not unless Media Molecule's making it. Because they already went on to that other studio after the second
Sumo
game.
Digital.
Sumo Digital,
did
yeah.
the third one.
And
18 layers of fun. Remember, it was 18 layers deep. That was a cool concept. That game was so buggy, though. My goodness. Oh my gosh. It was so buggy.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little disappointed with where the IP has gone, as far as
Me too.
They had this mantra.
They just made that
play, create, share. You remember that?
Yeah, that's not.
They don't really do that anymore. And Sackboy: A Big Adventure is like Super Mario 3D World, but just with Sackboy. It's really good. It's really good. I think it's a game that flew under the radar for a lot of people, but I got my PS5 and it was one of the only, I thought it was exclusive. Apparently it's on PS4, but it was one of the only games that I could play on PS5 that was a PS5 game. So I picked it up and we had a great time playing that game. I played it co-op with my girlfriend, Kelly, and we really enjoyed ourselves. But I just think there's no... Dreams is why would you use Dreams over like a game engine?
Right.
Dreams it's a really cool display of what the power of the PlayStation 4 or 5 can do, but why would you not just use a game engine? You know what I mean? I think that they're trying to impress us the way that they did with Little Big Planet. And I'm very impressed by Dreams, some of the stuff I've played, some of the stuff I've seen in that game.
Exactly.
But, it's nothing you can't do in a game engine. And if they're trying to make a game engine, they should just, market it like that and put it on PC.
Yeah, and it was overly
in my opinion.
Complex. It was overly complex, in my opinion, as well. The creative process is there. And shout out to people that can actually create in that game, because there's some crazy stuff going on there. But I'm, just playing devil's advocate, being a little bit more on the pessimistic side of this. Little Big Planet, the first game, is unbelievably amazing in its historic context for Sony. I think it was a really, really big deal for Sony when it came out. Like I said, it was a console seller. Maybe not on a mass market scale, but it had a market where you have people like Vinny and I, who are very creative people. We want to play a game where you can make your own levels and do your own thing. And there was no Super Mario Maker. There was no, all these other make your own adventure sort of things on these other platforms. At the time, it was one of the only things that really existed. And it was, Sackboy's still a huge mascot, like I said, for Sony. And yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah,
it still is. It's hilarious. It really is incredible what they were able to do with that game, for sure. Just such a good idea for a game.
Yeah,
when they were in that developing room, they were like, "Holy shit, this is such a good idea." when they came up with the idea for Little Big Planet. Okay.
What you got at number 5?
Number 5. This is your number 1 game.
Yeah, it is.
So let me say this before I do this. 5 through 2, excuse me, on my list we're talking splitting hairs here.
Okay.
So these are really, really sensational games. Number 5 is God of War on my list.
Way too low.
Fantastic game. Unbelievable game. I mean, this game got so much critical praise when it came out, and it was rightfully deserved. A lot of times there's critical praise, and I don't necessarily agree with it. When I saw all the 10s for this game, I actually got a little bit, I don't want to say worried, but I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting into here. Why? I'm interested in it. I'm into God of War.
Why is it a 10?
I liked. What's that? Yeah. What is so different about this game from the other one?
Right.
From the other ones, from 1, 2, and 3. And I liked 1, 2, and 3. I thought 3 was awesome in particular. I really enjoyed 3. And 2 is amazing, obviously. But this game, I mean, man, talk about a reboot. A soft reboot, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
It still carries on got a different voice actor for Kratos, which was, I mean, it might be the best decision in this video game. Could you imagine the old voice actor for Kratos making doing these things? That would be something. That would be great if somebody could do that. Just put the old Kratos' voice on some of these voice lines. But the new Kratos did a great job. The new voice actor. But man,
one of our 2 subscribers needs to do that, and we'll put you on.
I know.
The next episode of the show.
Make a and we'll have you on. You have to make a cutout of the old Kratos saying "boy" all the time. Boy. He'll be screaming it. But man, what a game it is! And one of the craziest parts about this game, I think I was halfway through with it, and I didn't know this because I didn't watch reviews. I don't like watching reviews because I don't like seeing particular reviews for games that I know I'm going to play. I don't like watching videos on it just so I can experience certain things for myself.
I agree.
But man, how long is this game? This has got to be what, 18, 20, or is this in the 30-hour range?
It's a bit
somewhere
longer than
around
that,
there, right?
I would say.
About maybe 25 hours.
25,
right?
I think is a good number.
I think I was about halfway through the game, so maybe 12 or so hours in, and I'm like, holy shit. This camera hasn't cut, and it just, I realized it. It's like it clicked in my head. I was like, this is literally a one shot the entire time. I remember the sequence in the beginning was one shot, and I was like, whoa, that was really cool. And then you realize it, like this entire game, there hasn't been a cut. It is incredible, and it's such a well told story. I can't say enough good things about this game.
Yeah, it's when you have a movie that does a oneer like that where it's just one long shot, it's obviously very, very, very impressive. There's some cinematic tricks here and there that go on in something like that, to stitch together multiple long shots. But a true oneer is obviously something that's been done in movies, but I don't think it's been done in video games before. It's a really cool decision to make a game that does something like that, because you just have to think about the story in a different way, I think. And I really feel like, the more we have video games, the more we have advancements in video game storytelling, the closer it gets to movies and television. And this game, for me, the reason why it was number 1 on my list is because I had never seen a game get that close, in my opinion. It gets very, very close to
It does.
a movie. It's just
even the soundtrack, Anthony, is so good in that game. It is like movie, like seriously movie level.
But it's more than a movie because we saw that with Uncharted 2 and The Last of Us, more or less, and games that came out in the the early 2010s, late 2000s, where they're trying to emulate a movie. Well, what you have here with God of War is a cinematic video game. They're not trying to make a movie into a game. They're trying to enhance cinematic moments in a game and make it a game. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. It is the most cinematic, like, you're absolutely right. It's the closest thing to a movie that a video game can be, in my opinion.
But I just think they're so aware of the fact that this is a game and not a movie. They're aware that they can take chances and do things differently, and they don't try to be a movie. They don't try to be something else. It is very cinematic, but they dive right into the video game storytelling. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it was very, very different than a lot of other things I've seen. Shout out to Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. That's another game
Mm-hmm.
that does that pretty well, and also tackles mental health, which is cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually played through that game recently, and it's fantastic
yeah, I
for
think
sure.
that's another game that does something similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Very similar in that degree for sure.
What do we got
I
for number 4?
Number 4, Ghosts of Tsushima. This is actually a recent release. This is a very recent release, right? I think this game came out about 2 years ago. This game is sensational. Really, really amazing gameplay. This game, it's very difficult for, I think with our lifestyles, both of us work, it is very difficult for a game to kind of get its hooks in me like Ghosts of Tsushima did, where I could not wait to log off of work and go play Ghosts of Tsushima to clear the map. I have a soft spot for the Assassin's Creed games and kind of those. They kind of have a bad rap now because it's just, okay, checking a bunch of boxes and you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again in those Assassin's Creed games. Ghost of Tsushima is like what Assassin's Creed I wish it had become. Ghost of Tsushima is so sensational with the way that it kind of opens its map to you. It slowly does that very. I don't want to say Elden Ring-esque, but you're essentially slowly kind of checking off things on the map, and I love a game that kind of lets you check boxes. I actually have a soft spot for that. Like I said, the Assassin's Creed games. But this game, those boxes that you're checking, everything that you're doing is really cool and really fucking interesting. It is awesome. And also, this is probably might be the most beautiful game that I've ever played in my entire life. It is so beautiful. Like and you're excited to go do things on that list because you just get to go see more stuff because this game is so beautiful and it's oh my gosh. I could not believe that Sucker Punch went from Infamous Second Son to this. It is really,
Yeah, isn't that
I
wild?
mean, it is insane to think that. Like it is almost like and Sucker Punch was always that studio that it was like, I don't want to say was one of Sony's B studios, but it wasn't like an Insomniac or
Right.
I think at that time Guerrilla had kind of stepped up because Horizon came out, right? So they were kind of looked down upon, like maybe like a B level studio for them. I mean, they definitely took something to heart because this game is so fucking good, man. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. What are your thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima?
So, excuse me, I've been clearing my throat a lot. Maybe we'll cut it out though. Ghost of Tsushima is a game that I picked up. Obviously, it came out toward the very end of the PlayStation 4's life cycle, so but I missed out on it when it first came out. So I picked it up right before I got a PS5, and I picked the game up, started playing it, really, really, really enjoyed it, and then they announced a PS5 update, and
Yeah.
I was playing the PS4 version on the PS5, and now all of a sudden I'm playing an outdated version of the game. They're gonna add haptics to it and stuff like that, and so I finally bit the bullet and just bought the PS5 upgrade a couple days ago, and it was totally worth the price of admission. And I don't
Really?
say that lightly because I think what we have now with these $30 upgrades, $10 upgrades for PS4 to PS5, we're gonna get into that discussion in a different video. Um, but I'm happy that I I went back into the game. I'm not very far into it, I will say that, but
Yeah.
what I've played,
It's so good.
I
It is
I
so good.
totally get all
Once
the
it gets
praise that the game
hooks
gets,
into you,
and
oh my gosh,
what
it is
was that?
so well done. Once it gets its hooks in you, it really is sensational, and there's so much to do in that game. And also, one thing that I do want to say about this game in particular, I'm not a huge fan of games that take 100 hours to beat, 120 hours. I don't like going into a game and knowing that, this is about to be a 100-hour experience.
I
I
understand that
maybe
totally. I
when I
agree.
was a kid, that used to really excite me.
Me
But
too.
now that you start working and your time is more valuable, and
Right.
those kinds of things can seem real daunting going into a game, thinking you're about to put 100 hours into this thing. It almost makes you want to not play it. This game is, I think, a perfect length for an open world game. This is right around the 40-hour mark. You could do, and that's if you do everything.
Oh, wow.
So you could probably beat this game in about 25 hours, which I think is perfect for an open world game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like I said, I'm not someone that pours hundreds of hours, but this game you could do everything in probably between 40, 50 hours. I beat it on PS4, and then I played it again once the update came out for PS5, and oh my gosh, similar to Final Fantasy VII when that came, like from PS4 to PS5, it is night and day, the frame rate. It is so, like, you cannot. I would never be able to play this game again in 30 FPS.
Wow.
There's no way. The 60 FPS is just, oh my goodness, it is just something special to see, especially with the visuals.
I'm
Oh
playing
my
it
God.
in resolution mode, but I don't think it's a lock 30. I really don't. I need to look it up because
Yeah,
it
I was
doesn't
gonna
it
say,
doesn't
look
feel
at
like
that.
30 because
I
you know,
think
we're spoiled
you know,
now.
it's-
We know what
yeah.
60 FPS feels like on a
Sure.
console game.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think this is one of those rare circumstances. If I remember, I think I watched a video on it, but I'm pretty sure the resolution mode and the frame rate mode are pretty much the exact same from what I know.
Okay.
Like this is one of those rare occurrences where it really doesn't make that much of a difference, either or. So I think you're in good hands there. All right, number 3. Let's move forward.
Okay.
This one we're both going to agree on. I don't think there's any arguments here. Kingdom Hearts on PlayStation 2. Let me ask you this question, I guess, before I jump into Kingdom Hearts. If Kingdom Hearts 2 didn't have that opening sequence of arguably the most boring gameplay that I've ever experienced in my entire life for the first 2 hours of that game, would you have Kingdom Hearts 2 on this list? Because Kingdom Hearts 2, I think, might be a better game if it wasn't for those 2 hours. So what are your thoughts on that?
The opening sequence of that game didn't really bother me that much.
Oh, God, it's terrible. Oh, man, I thought that's why you didn't have it on your list.
I don't think it's necessary.
The opening is so I can't even replay the game. It's so boring.
No, you know why it's not on my list?
Sure, go ahead.
Because it's way easier than the first game.
It is. That is certainly, that is one of the drawbacks on that game. It is very easy to beat those. That game.
Kingdom Hearts 1 is one of the
you get
last
very
games I remember
overpowered very
playing where
Mm-hmm.
I had to eye the cord on my PlayStation and keep, a lookout for any feet that were going to trip and unplug that game because I would have had a massive heart attack because the difficulty at the end of the game in that final boss sequence, you don't really get a save area or anything like that. You get continues, but you don't get a save area. So your PS2 is like chugging along, overheating almost, and you have to just deal with it until you beat the game.
Yeah.
It was one of the last games I remember doing that with.
It is such a hard game, and it's so much fun. It is just such a, oh my goodness. The story is convoluted, yes. I think that there's no argument there. I think the story is very convoluted, but that's not the point of these games, in my opinion. It's fun to watch the story, but you're just excited to go into these worlds, and particularly at this time when we played these games, it was the right time for Kingdom Hearts for sure. A great game at a great time. When we were kids, this game came out, so
Yeah.
it was like a dream come true to fight with alongside.
I think that's a
Donald and
really
Goofy.
I think that's a really good point that you made about timing, that you made earlier in the podcast.
Yeah.
That this game came out in 2002, I believe, and we were both, in our, we must have been 10, 11 when the game came out,
11 years old. Yep.
something like that. And Disney was absolutely massive, and video games were absolutely massive.
Exactly. And at that time,
combined-
the RPG elements in this game are very light to where it was understandable for us. We were
Right.
so young. It was easy to wrap our minds around. Okay, you have attack, you have defense, you have magic. There's 3. That's it. There's not any sort of overly complex system that I need to go
Right.
understand. Nothing like that. You have potions.
But there is stuff there if you want. You know what I mean?
There
Like,
is, for sure,
There's
for
depth
sure.
if you
Like,
want it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you don't. It's definitely not necessary.
But if you're a kid, and you're new to those elements, it's going to be a good way to kind of introduce you to them for sure. Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is
Yeah.
you're fighting Clayton from Tarzan on top of a giant chameleon. Like, come on, man. That is so
The
cool.
Ursula fight. The Ursula
The
fight.
Ursula
is
fight,
fucking
I
awesome.
just got anxiety when you said that.
It is literally the most heart-wrenching fight of your life.
Well, because
fighting that woman.
that
And
game
my
does
God,
something
I've probably
really.
fought her 1,000 times. And that stupid laugh that she does.
That
That's
game,
the most obnoxious thing ever.
the obnoxious laugh. That game, it does something really mean, right? It does that first fight with Ursula and the potions with the eels. You remember that?
Yep. Yeah.
And
yeah,
that
you kick
fight
her
is
ass. She's
so
a cakewalk.
easy. It's
Yep.
so easy. So
So
you're like,
funny.
wow. And this is before, Dark Souls and all those games that like fake you out the way that this game does.
It is so funny.
And
Yep.
and you're like, wow, that fight was so easy. I can't believe, wow, Ariel's world was so easy. And then you fight the giant Ursula, and she
Yeah,
whoops your
God,
ass
and she's
over
hard
and
as hell.
over again.
And that's the thing. You wouldn't think a Disney game like this. You would think that Disney would step in, and say, "Hey, can we lower this difficulty a little bit? Kids ain't gonna be able to play this game. This is hard as hell." But
Right.
no, I mean, it seems like Disney just stepped away and let Square Enix do their thing, and it worked out for the betterment of the game. And obviously, that's the case because look at the convoluted ass story in Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
There's no way Disney is a part of that. It's most. Is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life.
But like
So,
in my
and they're
opinion,
making- yeah.
Kingdom Hearts, we talked about how it's very important in our childhood. You got Disney, you got Final Fantasy characters in there, and they're all mixing together, and it's just a great time. We talked about that already, but I don't think we can overstate how important this game was for action RPGs. Like, I really don't think
Yeah.
it gets enough credit. It is a really, really good action RPG. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
If-
Look at
if
Final
you look-
Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, it is beat for beat built off of Kingdom Hearts fighting engine.
I
You know, it is
I
eerily
think
similar.
that there's a lot of inspiration. I don't think it's quite beat for beat, because there's some
Not beat,
turn-based
it's
stuff.
definitely inspired by the Kingdom Hearts fighting style. Like, it certainly was an element that played into that.
I don't even know if it was. I don't even know if I would go as far to say that it was inspired. I do think that it's, I think that it was part of the evolution. I think that's a better way of putting it, in my opinion.
That's a better way. Yeah.
But I think you look at the game that came out before Kingdom Hearts, the games that came out before Kingdom Hearts. You have Final Fantasy IX, which is turn-based. You have Final Fantasy VIII, which is turn-based with some, action elements in it. Final Fantasy VII is obviously turn-based. Final Fantasy X was turn-based, came around right around the same time. You don't get those action Final Fantasy games like Final Fantasy
after
15
Kingdom Hearts.
without Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Yeah.
Because that was, they were willing to take that risk. They don't, Square Enix doesn't, or Square Soft or whatever they were at the time, they don't want to go too far away from their comfort zone, not because they're not afraid of taking risks, because obviously they are, because they took a huge risk with Kingdom Hearts, but because their fan base has come to expect a certain style of game, and I think that's what made Kingdom Hearts so amazing in the gameplay department, because other than pressing circle to jump and X to attack, that seems so weird now, but
I know.
it's Tetsuya Nomura had a chance to do something different because he had a Disney IP, and obviously Disney's a big deal, but it wasn't the Final Fantasy IP. It was just Final Fantasy characters, So I think they gave him more freedom to mess around with combat and stuff like that, and I think it really paid off. I really do.
It did. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, this has like just a huge following. I mean, they just announced the fourth one, and people are already.
We'll talk about Kingdom Hearts more. We both love that game. We're both huge fans.
We'll be talking a lot of Kingdom Hearts here for sure.
Kingdom Hearts 3, spoiler alert for future podcasts. I hated Kingdom Hearts 3. I thought it was
Yeah, I think we're both in
absolute
agreement there.
garbage.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a Kingdom Hearts talk at some point.
So what's
Just
number
full
2?
blown Kingdom Hearts for 2 straight hours.
Absolutely, I would do that.
I would too. Number 2, Bloodborne. This game, oh my gosh. So this was the first Souls-like game, if you will, that I really kind of dove into. I played Demon Souls prior to this. I think I dabbled a little bit into Dark Souls 1. And there was something about those games, particularly their combat, that I just couldn't do. I was not good at the blocking elements of Dark Souls. I just wasn't. And I didn't particularly enjoy it. So, and a lot of that, I'm sure I could go back to those games. I actually want to go back to Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 and replay those to see if maybe now I'll have a better appreciation for those elements. But at that time, I didn't particularly enjoy the combat of those games. Then Bloodborne came out and essentially addressed all of my issues with those early games. The dodging mechanics in Bloodborne are sensational. I absolutely love the quickness of the combat, the fluid nature of the combat. It is so, and it only runs at 30 frames, which looking back on it, it's like, oh, I can't believe that game runs at 30 frames because of Elden Ring. Because
that sounds like a nightmare.
It sounds really weird, right? I know, exactly, especially a game like
now.
Bloodborne. But man, I think from an environmental standpoint, and we'll, I suppose, discard Elden Ring for right now, because I'm assuming we'll refer to that on a different podcast. But from an environmental perspective, up to this point, prior to Elden Ring, this was the best. You are essentially entering the depths of hell, and it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier the further you play this game. It really is. This is a horror game, and I see what you're saying earlier on when you said, I think you got a few more horror games here.
Yeah.
This is a horror game. This is certainly, I was terrified playing this game. You are literally, if you mess up a dodge, these guys will knock the fuck out of you. It is absolutely terrifying. And
yeah.
The character models, oh man, you think about it, the snakes, spiders, everything that makes you kind of, get the chills. You're fighting them in this game, and they will kill you if you do not dodge at the right time.
Not only is it scary,
they will absolutely destroy you.
Not only is it scary, like from an environmental point of view, but racking up a bunch of souls or blood echoes,
Yes.
they're called in this game. When you don't have a lot of experience with games like these, the more you play, the more you come up with a strategy, so you don't really lose souls a bunch. But that tension of, holy shit, if I die here, I'm about to lose like
Everything.
The equivalent of 4 levels in currency in this game. That is terrifying, I think.
It is, and you're absolutely right, because that's just an added level of fear to this already terrifying game. And just, I think from a combat standpoint, I think this is the best game on my list. I think this is absolutely. I mean, you can't make a better combat system. I know you said Final Fantasy VII. I would take Bloodborne over Final Fantasy VII.
That's fair.
This would be the game that I would take over it.
I think that's fair.
I think this game just has a sensational, also a parry system that I don't particularly enjoy parrying. I've never really been into that. But there is a very good parry system with the gun.
I think you heal more if you parry, right?
Yes.
Don't you get a lot of health back if you parry?
If you parry, you will get health back. And I remember when this game was coming out, all the Dark Souls fans were pissed off because that was an element of this game, is that you could potentially get health back right after you got hit by somebody. If you hit them right back, you get a portion of your health back, and they thought that would make the game too easy.
Were they really?
Well, yeah, it was a huge controversy. I didn't know that. Reddit, everywhere, huge controversy before this game came out. And then the game came out, and they went, "Oh, well, this is hard as shit. Never mind." Basically everyone said that because the game is hard as hell. But man, this is a really special game. And spoiler alert: even if I had Elden Ring in this discussion, I would put Bloodborne ahead of Elden Ring.
Okay, can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
I made my list almost a year ago. When I did like a soft launch on the channel, but we weren't actually launching the YouTube channel. So Elden Ring wasn't even out yet. And Vinny, you haven't beaten it yet, right?
No, I haven't beaten it. That's why it's not on my
Right.
list. So I just kind of.
I want to say Elden Ring is in my top 3 easily. That game is one of my favorite games ever. And it's not just because it's fresh in my head. I could go on a whole
it is.
tangent on that game. I'm not going to, but before you write in, why is Elden Ring not in here? That's why. Just saying.
Yeah. I figured because you didn't have it in yours, and you didn't, it wasn't in yours. I figured I haven't beaten that game yet. I'm not willing to put it in my top 10 yet, but it's looking like it 1,000% will be in my top 10 the second that I beat it. So, just not willing to do that yet, just because I haven't beat it. But Bloodborne, man, very special game. Very, very special game. And my God, can they remaster this game, please, God?
Give us 60 FPS. Bloodborne. I would definitely play it again at 60 FPS.
Give me this game. I want it remastered today.
I love that game
too.
Work
on it, Sony. Get it done, Sony.
What is your...
people from Sony are going to be listening to this podcast. Get it done.
Of course,
Give me the Bloodborne remaster. Give it to me.
One of our 2 subscribers is Jack Trenton. You didn't know that?
I know,
he doesn't work
for
Sony anymore, but he did.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, who is it now? It's
no, I'm just kidding.
Sean Layden. Or no, Sean Layden's gone, too.
Really?
I don't know who it is. I'm pretty sure Sean Layden's gone.
We're going to... You know what? These are conversations for later. We're not going to name drop anymore.
I know, right?
So before we move on to your number 1, I have one more question about Bloodborne.
Oh, sure.
What's your favorite area in Bloodborne, and then also what was your favorite boss fight?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. There is I'll go with the boss fight first because it's fresh in my mind. There and maybe you'll. I'm trying to think of the name of the boss fight. There is a boss fight where you walk into a church and there is a little girl crying at an altar. She's crying at the front of the church, and then she turns to you and just turns into this huge white dog.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
The most terrifying thing that you'll ever see in your entire life. And she fucking heals. And I don't know if you remember that. She heals herself throughout this fight. And it is literally one of the most terrifying fights that you'll ever have in that game. That boss took me at least oh my goodness, I must have fought her about 50, 60 times. I could not beat her.
Yeah.
She was so fucking hard.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
And it is just such a cool introduction to that character. Just to explode. Oh, it's so good. That is my favorite boss for sure. In terms of areas, I will go with the snake area. There's a forest with snakes. I don't know all the area names. I'm not going to act like I do. There's a forest with a bunch of snakes, and it is like 3-headed snakes. And it is the absolutely most terrifying thing.
Why don't I remember that?
Yeah. It is a forest full of snakes, and it is absolutely horrifying.
I'm thinking of the forests in the first 2 Dark Souls games. I don't remember a forest in Bloodborne, though.
Yeah, there's dark forests. I mean, there's forests. I mean, you're going in and out of forests throughout Bloodborne.
I don't remember forests.
But
anyway,
man, it is...
That is creepy.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
I don't know why I don't remember that.
Those snakes are terrifying. Yeah.
If I had to answer my own question, I would say the final boss, just when you find out who it is, and that was just so cool.
Yes, it is really cool.
And then
it is such a cool fight too, that final boss.
The area that I really thought was just brilliant was when you have to drop all the way down to get to remember the werewolf area?
Marginally, yes.
It's there's an underground church.
I'm trying to think.
This underground area, but you have to jump down to get there. You have to parkour down, and they do this. They've done it in Elden Ring. They do it in their other games, but it was my first experience with that. It's you think it's there's going to be an item at the bottom of this well or something, and it ends up being a whole other section of the game.
A whole other area. It is so good. Oh my God, that game is so good. It's also
all right. I've said all I needed to say about Bloodborne. I'm ready for your number 1 if you are.
Number 1. This is undoubtedly my number 1. There's not. Wow. I mean, this is the one that I am not willing to let anybody tell me otherwise.
Wow.
And it's not even close. Well, it is close, but unanimous. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the best PlayStation. It is the best game on PlayStation consoles, and it's not even close. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the best story in any video game that I've personally ever played. from start to finish. It is an absolutely sensational story. I've never really cared for a character as much as I cared for Arthur Morgan in this game. This game takes risks. We talked about risks with The Last of Us and how important that is. It's almost as if you make the game thinking there's not going to be another one down the line, right? And you're just kind of throwing everything that you could think of in here. This game is so, oh my god, it is the most beautiful. It is probably still the most beautiful game that I've ever seen. Maybe you could make the argument for Ghost of Tsushima. This game came out when 2016. I think it came out about. I mean, it must be 4 or 5 years ago now. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Was it that late?
And it's still the most beautiful game I think that I've ever personally played. And this, I've just never, from a gameplay perspective, it's fantastic. It's a Rockstar game. It plays very similar to the GTA games. And there's kind of that lock on whenever you're shooting enemies, but it is so good. The environments are so good. It's a setting. It's also a criminally underused setting in video games for some reason. We do not see Westerns in video games. Hardly ever. I mean, can you think of any other Westerns that come to PlayStation consoles? Like, I mean, in general, like big launches. You know, it's such a genre that you just don't see a lot
No,
of
you
big
don't. There's
AAA games going into the Westerns.
No, there's one called Weird West that just came out. It's like almost like an ARPG, I think. That I want to check out. But other than that, no. To answer your question. Also, really quickly, I just wanted to let you know it came out in October of 2018, which
2018. So it's 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still the most beautiful game I've ever played.
With
everything that I've played.
I think I would argue Ghost of Tsushima is, but I think it's wild that Red Dead came out, almost, what was it, like 3 years after? Before Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, 3 years before. Yeah, basically a whole development cycle before.
Wow.
And man, oh man, you could just tell the amount of work that went into this game. There is something pretty much everywhere on the map that's going to be of interest, and it's so beautiful. This game, I cannot emphasize that enough. I know I'm talking about the graphics. I'm talking about them a lot because they are really that good. And the character animations, there's so much in this game. That's another aspect about this game is I didn't know. I spoke about this a little bit earlier. I don't like going into games knowing how long they're going to take me to beat. So when I went into this game, I had no clue. I really didn't. I figured it would be about, maybe 25 hours or so, maybe 30.
I highly doubt that you thought it was 25 hours for a Rockstar game.
I think no. So typically for Rockstar games, though, you can play through the campaign in about 25, 30 hours from what I remember.
Yeah, maybe if you go
now.
If you
typically,
rush it.
Exactly, and that's the way that I personally will typically play the GTA games. I don't really have a need to do everything on the map.
Yeah, I'm like that too.
Obviously, I'll do the side missions. Obviously, I'll do those from time to time, but I don't need to do everything on the map on those games. I didn't feel the need, but with this game, I did everything. It is so good, and everything is so interesting. It's so varied. There's so much variety in the gameplay. But one thing that I will say before I finish up here and let you talk on it, there's an element in Uncharted that we particularly really enjoy, where the last 2 chapters, there's always a chapter towards the end of the Uncharted games, the first 2 in particular, where it just goes balls to the walls crazy, and you are just it just takes a total U-turn. Yeah. In Uncharted 2, you go to basically an avatar world, and you're fighting just weird avatar creatures. In Uncharted 1, what is it? The zombies towards the end, right?
Yeah, like undead.
Something of that. Yeah, the undead. This game has a U-turn very similar to that, where I had no clue that it was coming, and it is a U-turn that occurs probably about 2/3 through the game, and the last third of this game is that U-turn, and it is sensational. I don't want to spoil it just in case if maybe they remaster it, maybe you decide to dive into it. I have no doubt in my mind if you play this game all the way through, I would refuse to believe that it just wouldn't be on your top 10. I know it would at least be an honorable mention. I refuse to believe it. The story, I know it is a slow burn at the beginning in terms of story, but that is on purpose, and you have to just almost embrace that slow burn. I love the beginning aspects of these games, of this game. And did you play the first Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah, I
think
played. I
you did,
loved
right?
it. I played it all the way through,
And it's
beat it, got that extra ending at the end or whatever.
yeah, and it's a sensational game. This man, oh man, I cannot say enough about Red Dead Redemption 2 and what Rockstar was able to do. So,
I can't
what are
believe
your
it's your number
thoughts
one
on
game.
Red Dead Redemption? It's not even close. It really
Wow.
isn't. It's not even close. I mean, I knew this was number one when we were discussing top 10 games. That was the first thing that went to my mind. Well, I know what my number one game is. What are the others going to be? That was honestly the way that where my mind went here. I mean, man, like I said, the best story from start to finish in a video game that I've ever played.
Let me ask you a question.
And it is. Go ahead, yeah.
Because I know, like, we take PlayStation out of the equation and we're talking video games. On all consoles, all platforms. I know Donkey Kong Country is up there for you, and I know Halo 3 is up there for you. Where do you put this game in those?
It's number one. It's number
one.
one.
Oh my god.
It is. Yeah, it is number one.
Over Halo 3?
Yeah, over Halo 3.
Wow.
Over everything. I've never experienced anything quite like this game.
That's how I felt
really
about God
haven't.
of War. The way that you feel about this game is the way that I truly feel about God of War.
And like I said, a lot of it is timing. A lot of it's very subjective. And does the game speak to you? Do the characters do you have that sort of connection with the characters? I just want to give a shout out to the voice actors in this game. Arthur and Dutch and Dutch is probably the best video game character that I've ever
really
seen in a video game. He's certainly up there. He's probably top 3.
Is Dutch the same?
And he is in the first game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is he the same Dutch from the first game?
I barely remembered him from the first game.
Well,
I
in
remember
the first game, he's one of the main villains.
He is, and you only really see him very barely in the first game. Like he's not very prevalent.
A big part of it.
And they have
just a big part of the conversations and stuff.
They have the exact same voice actor doing it in the second game, and my goodness, oh my god, you need to play this game.
See, here's one thing, one criticism that I usually have about prequels is how do you build like dramatic tension when you know certain characters like John Marston are gonna die?
Like
you know what I mean?
Alive.
Like,
yes, yeah. And I had a problem with that too going in.
Really?
I did. I went in there thinking the exact same thing. I was like, I'm kind of pissed off that I know that John Marston doesn't die because I know that I play as him in Red Dead Redemption 1.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, man. Oh my God. You have, I can't spoil anything, but man, it does. Man, it is such a special game, Anthony. It is such a well-told story. And you're playing the video game like, I remember that, like I said, there's that U-turn kind of two-thirds way through the game. Maybe even a little less than that. Maybe it's about halfway through the game.
Really?
You see something that you've probably never seen in any of the reviews, and you're like, I cannot believe that I'm playing this right now. Like, genuinely, it is a very special game. And it is my favorite game of all time.
It's
as I stand here today, for sure.
One thing, okay, so just to let everybody else in on this, I haven't beaten Red Dead Redemption 2. I've probably played about 10, maybe 15 hours of it. But what I was going to say is, I think that what you said earlier in the podcast really rings true with me too. I don't want to go into a game knowing this is going to be a 100+ hour affair. Yeah. And I know that with Red Dead Redemption 2, so it's just like, it really makes it difficult.
Well, think to yourself this way, because I think we spoke on this a little while ago. If you went into Elden Ring right now, knowing you were going to put 150 hours into it, right, 100 hours, would you want to go into that game?
No.
I mean, I would.
No, maybe because
Yeah, it would
but
be
probably
a lot more
not.
daunting,
It would be a turnoff for me.
It would be a lot more daunting. Yeah. It would be, right? It would be a huge turnoff. It'd be a huge problem, and you'd miss out on that amazing experience, right? So it's very similar circumstances.
Let me tell you the difference,
You need to go
though.
in there. You need to have the time. You need to have the patience.
Right.
You really just got to kind of dive into this game and know what you're getting yourself into. And like I said, that's why I brought that up. Going into this game, I thought I was going to spend about 25 hours into it. I ended up spending hundreds. So it is really a sensational game. And you could really play through the campaign in this probably in about 40 hours ish, right around there.
Really? Because
Right
I've
through the
heard
campaign.
it's about double that just for the campaign.
No, I don't see that. Maybe 50, but not 80. Not anywhere.
Okay.
Not, from what I know.
I really
If
do
that
want
makes
to
you
play
feel any
it.
better.
What?
No, I was saying if that makes you feel any better.
Oh.
That it's only
I
50
mean,
hours, it's not 80.
yeah, a little bit. It does a little bit, but like I will say, the difference between Elden Ring and Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah, I didn't know Elden Ring was gonna take me 140 hours and I was gonna do everything in it and love it as much as I do. But
Yeah.
like
And
after an
yeah.
hour of playing that game, I was immediately hooked, immediately into it, immediately ready to, you know,
Yeah, to
dump
dive in.
100
Yeah,
hours
do
into it
everything.
if
Yeah.
that's how much the game
Yeah.
was. I didn't want it to end. Red Dead Redemption
Yeah.
2, like you've already mentioned, it had
It's a
sort of a
little
slower
different.
pace.
Yeah,
I was,
it's got
like
that
I said, I
slow
was
pace.
about 10, 15 hours in, and I didn't want to see it through because I knew I wasn't even a quarter of the way through with the game. Not because it wasn't
Yeah,
good, but
yeah.
because I knew it was going to take a lot more of my time.
It is, yeah. It does take a lot of your time, but it's time well spent for sure.
The storytelling elements
And
in that game, what I've seen of it, are really, really good.
it's amazing.
They
and
just
and it gets, oh my goodness, the
one
later
thing that
half of that, the
Rockstar
back half of
does,
this game is insane.
one thing that Rockstar does that I love, that they've, in my opinion, perfected, is the ability to go from cutscene to gameplay to cutscene to gameplay to cutscene.
Yes,
There's no
seamlessly.
very seamlessly, and
Yeah,
they've perfected it in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's it's just
yes.
so cool the way that they do it, and
And
other
that
games are
and that
starting to catch
yeah.
on, but
And I think that slow burn is purposeful because that's kind of the
yeah, I'm sure it
Western
is.
style.
I'm sure it
You
is.
know, that is the Western take.
Yeah, it's a Western.
Very
Yeah.
Hateful Eight-esque, right? You know, very slow burn. Those are the way those Westerns are. And like I said, a lot of this has to do with we just don't see a lot of Western games. This is unique in
Yeah.
that way. We just don't see that setting to this scale. We just don't see it anywhere. Nobody even tries to compete. There's no other Westerns. You would think that maybe Ubisoft, maybe somebody would think, man, maybe we should make our Western, right? No, there's no way. They're just going to get immediately compared to Red Dead Redemption 2, and it's
Right.
not going to work out well for them.
Right.
So, you know, that is my favorite game of all time as I stand here today.
Wow.
And that's it, man. That's gonna wrap it up for my list. That's my top 10 video games on PlayStation of all time.
Well, thank you, Vinny. And so just to clarify,
For
Red
sure.
Dead Redemption 2 is the best video game you've ever played.
That is the best video
Wow.
game I've ever played of all time.
Wow.
And that includes every console, every one of them. And it's not even a question in my mind. I'm saying that with conviction for sure.
Wow. Well, hopefully that was helpful for everyone, you know, getting sort of an introduction to the games that we really like and got us to where we are today as fans of PlayStation. That was fun, and that went a lot
That was
smoother than I
fun.
expected for the very first episode.
This was a lot of fun for sure. Very enjoyable. I think it's a good way to get people to get to know us from a video game perspective.
Sure.
Hopefully this did justice for that, and people understand where we're coming from. And also, Sony, like we said before, if you're listening, go remaster Bloodborne. Get it done. We're tired of waiting. Go get it done.
Yeah, so I mean, another thing I wanted to mention is, like I said at the top of this podcast, this is episode 0. This is sort of just hanging out with the two of us, which is what, you know, the next podcast will be, but it'll be a little bit more structured. We'll have some news elements to it. I'll let you guys know what the two of us are playing. You'll kind of get an idea of what we're excited for as far as games coming out recently, and we'll just make sure that it's very fun and informal in some ways and formal in others, but just it's gonna be a fun time, and we're gonna see where it
It's gonna be
goes.
a hell of a ride.
Yeah, this is this is sort of just for the two of us to catch up and shoot the shit and enjoy ourselves, but we do appreciate any and all feedback, so please comment.
Yeah, please.
And
Let
stay
us know.
tuned.
What can we do better?
Yeah, stay tuned because we are going to be back at it next week. Vinny, do you know what we're doing next week?
What the game? What the?
Like,
do
do you know? Do you have any idea what I have planned for next week?
No.
Okay, good.
No, I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, I barely knew what we were gonna do today. This was, yeah. This is me shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
You know, this is I. Give me your top 10 games of all time, and let's roll with it. That's pretty much where we're going. So yeah, next week should be a lot of fun, especially if I don't know what the hell's going on.
Check
Just
us
get my
out.
natural reactions.
Yeah, check us out on YouTube and just make sure that you know all the stuff that all the cool kids say at the end of their videos. I'm not really into all that self promotion, but definitely check out our YouTube channel because we're gonna post stuff on there. Stay tuned for next week. We don't know when exactly we're gonna release these episodes, but it's every week, so can't wait to see you guys for the grand premiere of episode 1. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
See ya.